is how you remind me of what I really am. It's not like you to say sorry.
Guys, welcome back to the Chad and Mel movie hour. We are here and apologizing in advance to discuss Alien vs. Predator Requiem. So once again, fasten your seatbelts, or don't, because you may not want to survive this one. And cheers, here we go.
What a shitstorm.
I mean, honestly, I think everything is summed up about this movie in the fact that they refer to Earth as a backwater planet. Because if we're making movies like AVP, Requiem, we are a fucking backwater planet. So,
yeah, great point.
Where to begin? Okay, so
I just want to say that when, of course, we're doing this in the chronology of the story, not the film releases, but, you know, in reality, in 1997, Alien Resurrection came out and was kind of a bit of a disappointment. Took me a while. It wasn't a good film because I so badly wanted it to be a good film, but I didn't think, I was like, wow, this is kind of low. I don't know if the series can get much worse than this. And boy, was I wrong. Because, of course, I think AVP is a little bit worse than Resurrection. And I certainly think that Requiem is worse by far than both of those films. Yeah, so I have some notes, and I know you have some notes on this film. This film was directed by the brothers Strauss, which sounds as ridiculous as the film is. Just the fact that they refer to themselves like that, like, yeah, I mean, no disrespect, but it's just like, you gotta just understand what you're dealing with. It's not a good film. Something really interesting is that you and I talked a lot about how David Fincher directed these incredible, beautiful music videos for some of the biggest artists of like the late 80s, early 90s. Brother Strauss also are music video directors, but for the likes of Nickelback and shit like that. Yes. So they've done a ton of music videos, and they're known for special effects. So they've done a lot of special effects and stuff like that for movies. They haven't directed a lot of films. This was one of them, but all their music videos suck. Like, they have a long list of music videos they've done. Like, David Fincher did, like, Express Yourself by Madonna, which is fashioned after Metropolis, an incredible masterpiece of silent film, and they've done Nickelback. So it's like, we kind of preached how humble beginnings are perfectly all right and acceptable, but the eye has to be there, the talent has to be there. And if you look at that commercial crap that they're making, like with music videos, I don't think, am I being too harsh?
No, I
don't want to be too harsh, because God bless anyone that is out there doing it and making it happen. It's just, you know, personally, I'm just speaking from my point of view of what I look for in film. Is just something interesting, or like you said, that has, like we've talked about, has like a mythic context or something deeper. Everything they've made is just very surface level. So I don't want to insult them, but I'm just speaking the truth. So I think that what's interesting is they made the film for $40 million, and it made like 129 box office and 27 million in video sales. So it was like a big hit. It was not a big hit, but it was certainly a hit. Like, it was a moneymaker for the studio. And they didn't immediately make another one, even though Brother Strauss was like, we want to direct another one. They kind of, I think the reviews were terrible, and deservedly so. But I think that the studio, I'm surprised they didn't just like cash in for another one right away to make another 100 mil or whatever. For Predator, the series went on to do Predators in 2010, which is like 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, 65% fresh. And that one also cost 40 million. But for the Alien series, they went on to make Prometheus in 2012. Now, AVP Requiem was 2007, so they did continue both the Alien and Predator franchises like shortly thereafter Requiem, but they just decided not to continue on with AVP. Which, like I said, the studios are all about money, so I'm just surprised they didn't just bang another one out. But I guess they kind of saw coming down the way that they were going to do the Adrian Brody Predators one, and Ridley Scott was ready to do the Prometheus one. Prometheus, for context, cost 130 million just to make it, which is more than AVP Requiem even gross. But Prometheus grossed $403 million. So it's such a substantially bigger picture. So maybe they kind of had their sights on bigger, better things. Or maybe they were just wise enough to be like, this isn't working that well.
Yeah, I
don't know, take up some of your thoughts.
Well, I'm still curious to this day, why didn't we get a third AVP? Because that was clearly where it was going, with the
Right.
at the end of Requiem. And hopefully it was because there were other projects within the franchise that ultimately were better, slightly better to much better. Yeah, I mean, I hope that it was like an intentional thought on the part of the heads of these studios that, hey, this shit ain't working, especially after Requiem, because
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to, to your point, like, we don't want to like shit on people that are out there doing stuff and creating stuff, right? But at the same time, like, there's humble beginnings, and maybe there's like too humble of a beginning, because if you're filming Nickelback music videos, God bless you, you're doing the Lord's work, really. But, why are you being like, who is endeavoring to give you license to film a major motion picture off the heels of a Nickelback?
Right.
Like,
right. And the special effects aren't that great, I guess. You know what is also maddening to me is that Alien vs. Predator was 2004. This was 2007. So like a few years later, but it doesn't feel like AVP at all. Like, not even tonally or like artistically of a shift, but just like zero regard to make like a continuity feel. Like Alien and Aliens couldn't be more different, but they feel, I think maybe because of the character of Ripley is so well written in Aliens, but they feel like one and the same.
yeah.
Like you could watch them back to back and be like, okay, I'm having a continued experience. With AVP, it's so jarring because it's not just the tone, it's the editing, it's the lighting, it's just like, it's like they were like all coked up when they made this.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And we talked about how I took a note about how the alien was hidden in Alien, but there's such a difference between hiding and then showing strategically with good lighting, or just like bad lighting where you just can't see shit. And that's this movie. It's just like has terrible lighting. And I think they're like, oh, we'll backlight it and it's going to be like dark and it'll make the film dark tonally because it's literally dark. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, it's way too dark. And I like dark film, but like you still have to light it strategically so that you get the sense of the detail or shapes at least partially on these figures. Like you don't even have anything and it's just like, and yeah, the alien, they made it even more like an animal in some ways. They brought back the ridges, so they did like, again, they keep changing the alien design for every film, which is weird to me because like in each film it's consistent within that film. Like so why would the look of the alien suddenly change in like another film in that way? I get if it comes from a dog like Alien 3, yes, it's going to look different, but when it's coming from humans, for them all to look different in each film, like I don't get it. And it's like so they had the smoother dome in the first one, but it still had a very like AVP. I'm sorry, in AVP they had the smoother dome, which had like the whole alien had like an alien resurrection look, which is my least favorite design. And in AVP Requiem, they just took that same design and just brought the ridges from Aliens back. Because I guess they thought that was cool. Never do anything just because you think it's cool in a moment. Just like think it out in these films, please.
Well, I mean, yes, I think you are not preaching to the choir on this one, because again, you're dealing with people, the brothers Strauss, who have the eye for filming Nickelback videos. And if you're going to be as pretentious as to refer to yourself as the brothers Strauss, you better be making some high fucking art, okay? Like, don't come out the gate.
Back that shit up.
Nickelback and Requiem, because you should be going by like your first and last names. Like normal, you're not a god, take several seats. I think, to your point, not, technically, tonally, everything is different between AVP and Requiem, right? They're two completely different genres. At least AVP was still slightly. Requiem is Alien and Predator shoved into a horror movie. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, every horror trope is there. A bunch of teenagers, broken black teenager, sexy pool time with the hot girl that gets killed. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And, I don't know can't remember if it's the opening scene of the film, but it's definitely in the first act, where you see the father and the son who are hunting in the forest, and they get got by an alien, which is fine. But I mean, there were so many shots in that scene or sequence that reminded me of E.T., like from the rustling of the ferns. I mean, the same plant. It was shot low, like E.T. was, almost from a kid's perspective.
Right.
It was just like, what are they doing here? Was that was it intentional? I don't know. And then, one of the things that I remember, and I think this is, we talked about this in the AVP movie hour, is there seems to be a collective misremembering of Requiem being better for some reason. And I think because of the marketing, because I'm just realizing and remembering now, when AVP Requiem was being marketed before its release, I remember there was like a Burger King toy that came out. Like it was, there was an app where you could, on your phone or on the computer, like it would take a picture of your face, and you could have like a face hugger over your face, and like you could have a Predalien like morph on your face. Like there was a lot of marketing to it that made it, I think, like really hyped. But the movie was just absolute trash. It has no place in the universe. It has no place in the franchise. It doesn't deepen mythology at all.
Right. I think that fans had a little bit of excitement around this because the first AVP was notoriously like a PG-13 film, and they announced before the, once fans were like, oh, the Requiem was going to be an R-rated film, there was some excitement behind that, and it felt a lot more like Aliens, the film did, like in tone, in action. The awful actress, the actress is good, but the awful character in the film that looks and sounds and acts like Ripley, I don't have her name written down. I don't know her name by heart, but the one that, she's coming back from the army to her family, and God, it's such a blatant ripoff of Ellen Ripley, the character is. And I think the actress is good and everything, but the role, the character, and the writing is terrible. This is the first like super blatant ripoff of Sigourney Weaver, and even like the way they direct her, you can tell they're trying to get her to act like Ripley in that second Aliens film, where it's way too on the nose, right? The teen drama shit is ridiculous. Like that has, like you said, no place in an alien film. It's terrible. The teens are awful. You do have the token black teenager, and what's so funny is that I think, I gotta fact check this, but I think it was like a Canadian production. Like, you know how a lot of times we'll go up to Canada to film because it's more cost effective. So it's so funny because the black teenager only has like one line, and he has like a really strong Canadian accent. And they're asking him, it's when the guy who works at the pizza place, the teenager, comes into the blonde teenager's house who he really likes. And oh, I forget the line, but the one asshole blonde guy says, hey, isn't nice costume to his like pizza, his pizza uniform. And then the token black guy goes, yeah, isn't Halloween in October? And I'm like, oh, you're so Canadian. And this is supposed to be like an American film. And it's just,
I have to rewatch that scene now.
oh my God, it's so bad. It's like October. What? It's so bad. Like that whole teen drama stuff. There's one actor that I think does as an actor in this film, and his writing isn't so terrible, and it's the cop. But a lot of people, you know, the cop gentleman who's like the main lead, I think he does a good job. His writing, the writing for him again is not good. His character writing and all that is not great. He seems like a realistic person, but then later in the movie he makes choices like give everyone guns and stuff, like, which I could kind of see both sides of, because, you know, we're in a very apocalyptic situation with aliens running all around. So I kind of excuse that for that reason. So I think he does a pretty good job, but the teen stuff just has no place, like no place in an AVP film. And it's like the ultimate modernization and dumbing down of an otherwise stellar series.
Named. And going back to Ripley impersonators, the character's name is Kelly, the actress is Reiko Aylesworth.
Yes, Reiko.
Doing the best she can with the material she's given, right? But
sure.
And you know, based on her name in real life, Reiko, which is Japanese, and Aylesworth, which is very Anglo, I'm assuming she's, you know, because in the film she was portraying what appeared to be like a Latino woman. So when I was watching Requiem, I was getting like equal parts Ripley impersonator and equal parts like Vasquez impersonator from Aliens, right?
Oh,
like one of the characters in all of filmdom for me. But
right.
It felt like they were trying to mash those two together. And I mean, nothing landed in this movie. Literally nothing landed.
No, the face huggers look like garbage.
Okay, like
they look like super rubbery.
Like I have 3 bullet points here just on face huggers. Like, okay.
Oh, so awesome.
But to your point, John Ortiz, the guy that plays the police officer, he's a fantastic actor. He's been in so much stuff. Again, right. You're not giving these people anything to work with. Like,
sure.
And the complaint about him handing out weapons, I mean, it is the alien predator apocalypse. Like, you're going to hand out some guns. Like, calm down. Like, if that's what you're going to nitpick this movie over, like, you're missing the greater point here.
Seriously.
I mean, you mentioned earlier, though, the lighting in this film. The lighting in this movie is horrible, and it made no sense because the entire marketing of this film was predicated on, we're going to show you the Predalien, right, and all of its glory. That's the only reason anyone went to see this movie, right? We're not going to see this movie for high art or great acting. We just want to see the Predalien. And it was actually pretty badass. But you couldn't see it. You couldn't see him. And on top of it, poorly lit, everything with all of the fight sequences, it was raining. Why is it raining?
Yeah. I agree with you. The design of the Predalien was not bad. And it's almost like even that they had to fuck up by not even showing it.
Right.
Yeah.
The only reason people are going to see this movie.
You know what?
It makes no sense.
I just had an epiphany.
Tell me.
This film is one and the same of all the Alien like ripoffs. So you know how after Alien, Alien the film and Aliens were so popular in our culture that there was just like one after another like ripoff like B monster movies that were direct ripoffs of Alien. Everything from Carnosaur, the dinosaur movie, to just a million. There's so many where like the air ducts are used, or like a power loader situation, or like they're just ripping these two movies off left and right. This movie belongs in that category.
Right.
It belongs in the category of like it doesn't deserve to be an official part of this series. It's so self-referential in such a like haphazard way that it belongs to just be thought of as like a B film that's just ripping off Aliens.
Again, so you're naming it, you know, where AVP you mentioned in our AVP movie hour, like I didn't think after Resurrection it could get any worse, and then they gave us AVP, right? And then you think, oh, it can't worse, and now here we are talking about Requiem and wasting hours of our life that we'll never get back. But at the end of the day, like AVP at least makes sense. It makes sense mythologically, it makes sense tonally. You know, it's not a great film, but it's a piece of the puzzle that fits. Requiem is just, again, and I'm going to misquote you, but I mean, it was probably written by some coked up brothers Strauss and their writing team. And they were probably listening to Nickelback while they wrote this fucking movie. What is the problem?
I would never just single out like an early project from someone, because I get it. If you look at all the music videos they made, they're all equally shitty. Like they did like 15 or 20 music videos. No, they're all terrible musicians that they did. They're all like shitty, like I don't have the list in front of me, but just look them up on Wikipedia and you'll see. If you can pull it up while we're filming, you can kind of rattle off some of the highlights of it.
Delighted.
But it's pretty bad. Yeah, and there's so much that's not working in this film. They made it rated R, so they brought back a lot of like the gore and stuff because they thought that's what would make people happy, because a lot of fans complained that wasn't in the first one. But the film is so incompetent that it doesn't even matter. And I love gore and stuff has to be within the context of something meaningful, right? And just the fact that they use these sound clips from the movie Aliens, where the alien is like, "Argh!" Like this, there's certain things that like we've seen aliens so many times that like if you heard a sample from that film, you would know instantly that that's the screech from that I've heard, like, you know, however many dozens of times by watching Aliens. So it takes me out of the film. I'm like, oh, that's a sample right there. And it's so self-referential. And you could say that by this point in the series, let's have fun and be self-referential, but it has to be done in a witty way. It can't be done haphazardly. When you start just like, I mean, everything about it, the get to the chopper part, the guy goes like, get to the chopper. And like, it's just like, oh, it's such a facepalm moment.
It is. It's forced. It doesn't land. I mean, first of all, no, you're invested in none of these characters. At least with AVP, you get an opportunity to invest in Sanaa Lathan's character at the very least, right? You are not invested in any of these people. There's no character development. You have this brother that just got out of jail, and he is trying to bond with his younger brother, who's a pizza delivery boy, and has the, you know, stereotypical trope of horror movie friends, including token black guy and token
October.
chick. You know, it just, there's none of it makes any sense. And then, you know, you have two characters who might have carried the film if they had been given any opportunity to like act at all. You know, the woman that plays Callie and the gentleman that plays the police officer. I don't know. It's very frustrating.
Right.
You know, the other thing is with regards to the monsters in this film, the creatures, the predator and the Predalien, you know, so much of it just doesn't even, it's insane to me. I'm when I made this note, I went back and I rewatched several scenes to make sure I wasn't misremembering, but there is so much like horror, like combat in this, and not a single person dies or gets injured from alien acid being thrown on them when it's being literally like spewed onto walls when the predator's fighting the Predalien.
Right.
You know, like acid is going everywhere. Nobody gets any acid on them. And like not possible based on the Aliens film. You know, we see Uncle Bean's character get injured. We see acid going through the grates and the vents. There's no, I put a bullet, nobody gets any acid on them. I mean, it makes no sense. I did like that we got hand-to-hand combat between the Predator and the Predalien, but it's so poorly lit that it's like you can't see anything. You know, you can't even see how bad it is, how good it might be, because you know, it's probably bad, but you can't even see it.
No. There's some on-set photos with like really good lighting of the Predalien costume, and I think when it attacks the pregnant woman, you can see it a little bit better, and you can see the animatronics of it, and it's actually pretty badass. It's not a design for me that ranks up there with like previous designs in this franchise, but it gives you what you want. It gives you a mix of the alien predator, and it does so fairly competently. And they should have shown it more. I think it could have looked a little faker if they showed it too much, but there's a happy medium. It's so interesting. I think Paul Anderson did a much better job with AVP, you know, problems aside, than Brother Strauss did with this film. But even when I went back to rewatch these films, I had no problem watching AVP and then watching it with the commentary on. I couldn't even make it through Requiem. Like, I turned it off, like, purposefully, because it just was so dumb and so depressing. And I don't think in the same way, because you can say Paul W.S. Anderson, when he made AVP, was like a fan of a true fan of Alien. You can't probably say that about Brother Strauss, and I'm sure they would say they are, but they're not. Because, or they're not in the way that really wants to do reverence to the series, because they took the series and they churned out a money-making popcorn film with teenagers and a bunch of bullshit. And it was more about making money for the studio than making a legitimately good film. I mean, the editing, just everything.
Yeah, and you made the point earlier, and I believe this was in the AVP movie, about the use of miniatures in the original Alien film, and in the original Aliens, when it comes to the Queen. But you know, the editing is cutting back and forth so quickly that the eye doesn't have really time to identify what's a miniature versus not. You know, George Lucas succeeded so well with the original 3 Star Wars in using miniatures. Your eye can't discern because of the scale and the framing and all of that.
Yeah.
And then you have this pile of poop that just, you know, I don't even know what's happening, really. I can't tell. I mean, clearly some of it's CGI, but you can tell that with even within Requiem, you know, there's people in costumes, so you have the element of realism there, which I appreciate. But you can't see it again because it's lit so poorly and shot so poorly, edited so poorly. Like, who is the cinematographer in this movie? And like,
I think, and I don't know if I addressed what you said earlier, but I wanted to say that I think there is back to the point about there being a misconception about which AVP is better. I think on the face of it, everyone thought this would right all the wrongs of AVP 1 because they were going to try to use a lot of practical effects. They were going to use have the freedom to make an R-rated film. Yeah, they were doing something that was like even more intense, I guess. They were going to show the Predator alien, the Predalien. So when you take those points, it's like set it up to be like, oh, there was an excitement, right? And then, but really when you watch it, it's clear that this is the worst film in the entire franchise of Predator or Alien. Yeah.
It definitely belongs in the category, as you said, of the B-list, you know, alien impersonation movies. It doesn't belong
Right.
For me, it begs the question, like, you know, I'm not going to give the Brothers Strauss too much credit because let's just quickly go through their music video filmography. So just to give you a taste of what we're dealing with here, and again, this is not a personal judgment by Chad or I on the Brothers Strauss.
We're just providing the information.
We're just providing facts, okay? Nor am I commenting on the artists that they worked with. No comment. Linkin Park. Nickelback, How You Remind Me. Disturbed, Prayer. Nickelback, the videos, all of them. Seems to have done some sort of mythology moment there. A Perfect Circle, Passive, which I won't even go there. Perfect Circle. Usher, Love in This Club. It's a classic. 50 Cent, Get Up. So that's what we're dealing with.
And some of those, like you said, artists or songs, you know, aren't terrible, like Linkin Park. But if you really watch those videos, they look of the moment. They look dated. They're very effects heavy in and of that era, of that type of like stupid CG. Yeah. And none of them are doing something to expand that art form of music videos. They're very much commercial. And if you go back to what Fincher was doing with Madonna or any of the other huge artists he was working with, he was setting a standard. He was like expanding the art form. So huge difference. It's all in what you choose to do with it. But yeah, I'm not impressed. I mean, I just don't think it's fine that they did that, but then I don't think they're the right choice for this series. Unless the studio is really just, we want to bang this out and make like a dumb film and we don't care. But,
Yeah, I mean, but it begs the question for me, you know, if this had been a B movie that existed outside of the canon, like...
Would we like it?
Yeah, like Alien 2, you know, like to see it...
Right.
Ridiculous, like, satire, or not even satire, but just like a ridiculous...
Or like Prometheus.
You said it, not me, sir.
I'm sorry, not Prometheus, Proteus.
Proteus, okay. I thought you were coming from really hard on that. Okay.
And when you said Alien 2, you're talking about, for those who don't know, the Italian film of Alien 2 that was made in 1980 that is outside of official canon. But there's all of these, you know, related but separate B movies. And I wonder if it was just one of those, would I find it more interesting? Would I cut it more slack? And I was also just thinking about how the studio heads change over the years, and the direction that these studios choose to go changes, and who calls the shots on which films kind of change a little bit in these big studios. So it'd be interesting to kind of map out like who was in charge of greenlighting these films, right? And who and what else they greenlit, and where their thought process was on some of these, because you do have a shift after this film back to trying to steer things back the right way with Predators and with Prometheus, I think, which are Prometheus is a much more solid film than Requiem, and it's certainly back in the right direction. problems aside. But
yeah, I wonder, because the idea of putting the alien and the predator in a horror genre could be fun if it weren't meant to be taken seriously. But because this was marketed as the sequel, I mean, it was the sequel to AVP and a continuation of the mythology of this franchise, like you're going into it thinking, I might take something away from this, like I might learn something. No, like I got dumber after I watched this, and when I rewatched it, and I looked at the fact that I took 2 pages of notes on this movie, I'm like, what am I doing in my life? But
there is an interesting moment early in the film that shows the predator homeworld, but it's very fleeting. It looks good, I think, and it looks interesting is what I'll say. And the effects are not bad in that shot, and it's just like a predator taking off for Earth from the homeworld or something like that. And I was kind of like, wow, I'm not sure if I would love to explore the alien homeworld, or if it's one of those things that's better seen in a glimpse than really going there. But it was a cool moment. I don't know.
Yeah, and
just a thought.
Yeah, no, that actually reminded me. One of my notes was that there's a shot of Requiem early on in the first act, I believe, where you see the predator in the cockpit of his or her ship. I'm assuming it's a gentleman in. But it reminded me the framing of the shot, and not so much the aesthetic of what was going on in the ship itself, but the framing of the shot and the angle at which he was situated in the cockpit reminded me of the engineer from Alien. Now, that might be a little bit of a reach on my part, but that's immediately what came to mind. Was he was situated in such a way that was similar to the way the engineer was seated in the whatever hangar room.
Right. I was a little bit like, at the end of AVP, the predators all put like the injured predator on this slab, and they all walk away, and like right as they walk away, it bursts the pred alien.
Right.
Like, they don't have cameras on their ship. They didn't know this was going to happen. They didn't know it was infected. They all just walked away. And then all of a sudden it's attacking them on their ship. Full grown. I find that hard to believe that this advanced species wouldn't at least have like some inkling. And maybe that's like reaching on my part, but.
No, I don't think it is, because one of the notes that I took was not that. That's a great point that I really didn't pay attention to, but later on in Requiem, there's a scene where the predators sneak up on the pred alien, and it's like, how would that be possible? How would a predator even sneak up on a xeno, let alone a pred alien, which is superior, yet up on it?
They've already set it up for us, right? That the predators know everything about the aliens, everything.
That's true.
So then how do they not know one of their own is impregnated, and that it gives and that the chest burster of the Predalien comes out? They totally miss all that until the thing is full grown on their ship, like attacking them.
Right.
That is just, this movie insults everyone's intelligence, I think. It even kind of hurts mentally to do this review.
It does. It hurts. It hurts my soul. It hurts.
Not that we're so brilliant, but come on.
Let's not sell ourselves short. We're pretty fucking brilliant. We're giving, we are endeavoring to provide the greatest movie reviews the world has ever known to the American public. I think we should refer to ourselves as the brothers, sisters, Civic Hamill. Let's just, okay. But if anyone is deserving of referring to themselves with the and their last name, it's us. I digress. Yeah. There are so many plot holes in this movie, and to your point about the face huggers earlier, one of the notes that I took is that the face huggers they very much look like puppets. They're larger than we've ever seen them before, and my question is, how did the eggs get there? Because the eggs were in the forest when the father
Yeah.
and son are hunting. Did Predator place them there as like part of the sport? Like, why are the eggs on
Yeah.
the water planet?
Are you really trying to make sense of this?
Really, I really am, because we know.
Yeah, I don't know that part. I think there might be a reason, but I don't know what it is.
Because if baby Predalien just burst through the chest of that pregnant predator on the ship
Right.
and murdered all of the predators, how did the eggs,
Can it like lay eggs? I don't know. I doubt it.
they place the
Um,
before? It makes no sense.
yeah, it makes no sense. The face huggers, like you said, seem bigger. I'll have to rewatch to see about that. But so you're saying that the face huggers are bigger, but what's interesting is the aliens are smaller because they're smaller guys in the suit. So the scale is like way off here. Yeah, but I think to resume, I think a lot of the aliens in subsequent films after the first one got a little smaller because they stopped using like 7-foot people, and I think that's a major mistake, especially in these films. But we got bigger problems in these two films. Um, I wasn't so angry when they came out because these films came directly from the comic book world, really. But a lot of people say that the AVP comic books, and there were novels too, some which I have somewhere, which I've read one or two of, they're not bad. So the comic books and novels are apparently so much more well written than the films are. And I think the first film draws pretty heavily on the comic stuff that comes right from the comic books. I think for Requiem, it's like kind of its own thing, and they're just trying to like bring Alien into like small town America, like Jason and Freddy. So as you can tell by my shirt, I am a huge Freddy and Jason fan, but it has no business in this series of Alien and Predator. Alien and Predator is not a slasher series. I love slasher series films, but this is just not that kind of a series. So to make it a dumb modern day horror movie like they did in 2007 with this film, it's very disappointing. But when I saw them in theaters, both of these films, I didn't have like that strong of a reaction because I already felt going into them that they were going to be this way. I didn't take them seriously. It's kind of like Frankenstein meets versus whoever, or Godzilla versus Mothra, right? It's this very over the top. Anytime there's a versus, like Freddy versus Jason, they're ridiculous films. You can't take them seriously. We just want excellence from them because they're attached to this larger body of work that is so stellar. So I think that's where fans are like extra hard on these movies. I think you just almost kind of have to just accept that they're at that level of the versus films, and that they're just popcorn films. But you know, I approached them that way when I saw them in theaters, but I still didn't have that much fun in theaters when I saw them. They were still just they leave you just kind of like empty feeling. They don't like even satisfy on that basic level, I feel like. Yeah, like I said, I started watching Requiem and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna turn this off.
Yeah, I agree with that when it comes to Requiem, because I remember seeing Requiem in the theater, and because it was so hyped and because we were seeing this new creature, right, the Predalien, like it was like, okay, awesome. But it was so horrible that I literally left the theater dumber than I went in. And,
yes.
And, you know, having to rewatch this, which I am having so much fun doing, but like rewatching this movie, like you just realize, like, what the fuck were the brothers Strauss thinking? Like, were they trying to do like their version of a B movie? Like, let's insert these two creatures into a different genre and have fun with it, which is fine, but it just didn't belong in canon. or were they really just that shitty of filmmakers and they were trying to make like a serious continuation to AVP?
Right.
I can't remember if I saw it in the theater or if I saw it at home, but AVP, I didn't feel like, I mean, it wasn't high art, obviously, but I didn't feel like let down because I knew what I was getting myself into. But AVP was,
Right.
you know what you're getting yourself into. It's going to be popcorn, but this was like remedial popcorn. This was like popcorn for like, you know, this is not, I don't know how intelligent an audience is supposed to be or how stupid an audience is supposed to be. Like, this was insulting to everybody. Like, nobody deserved to spend
Right.
$20 on that movie.
Right. I agree. I agree. I just, yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I don't have much else to say. I don't know if you want to look and see if you have any more notes for this film.
I mean, this
But
is,
I just almost don't even have that much more to say about it. I think, okay, one thing I thought of while you were just talking, you helped me think a little bit, and I was kind of ruminating on what were they trying to do with this film? And I think what they were trying to do with this film, very simply, was to just like update it and make like a very of the moment feeling film. But they disregarded so many things, and they made it like a film that it shouldn't have become, like a slasher film with teenagers. They shouldn't have done that part. But I think they were trying to make something of the moment that would be commercial. They were trying to make a commercial film for a younger audience that was of the moment. And it does feel like 2007. It does feel like a film directed at a younger audience, like some of the later Final Destination type films where it's a bunch of teenagers getting killed off. Not quite like a slasher, but like teen. You have the teen drama for a younger audience. You have special effects that are very of the moment. There's nothing groundbreaking. There's nothing that exceeds that moment. They made a film that was very of the moment in 2007. And I think there's some pride in that, and just even making a film for them maybe. But like you said, it has, in hindsight, it has a lot of shortcomings. And yeah, I won't be watching it again.
yeah, I really hope to never watch it again. I feel like I got everything that one could get out of it. The only other thing I wanted to mention about this movie is we talked about in passing in some in Predator 1 and Predator 2 movie hours, and something we've already filmed and some of our conversations offline about the life cycle of the xenomorph, from like egg to face hugger to impregnation, incubation into xenomorph. And I noticed in Requiem they altered it to a degree. Like, there's a scene where there's a woman who's pregnant in the infirmary and she has a face hugger on her, but instead of like a chest burster, like eggs come out instead. Like, the entire life cycle is
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
I think there's a scene that you might have missed where the Predalien injects these seeds into her down her throat.
Okay, yeah, I have that.
And
but that completely messes.
so the Predalien has its own, since it's like a hybrid of the more alien stuff and the predator DNA. It's like how the dog alien is in Alien 3. Right. So it has like its own like life cycle elements, I guess. And one of them is like being able to impregnate the way a facehugger does, kind of.
Right.
And it comes out a little different too. Yeah, it's weird.
I just wish that, since they've introduced a new character with the Predalien, like, part of me, like my reptilian brain, like the part of me that got dumber after watching this movie is like, I want a third movie because I want to see like
right.
And I want to see like what happens with this Predalien, and it feels like they just cut us off and went and did it for better.
I don't know, right. Right. I don't know why they didn't just do both. Like, you can still have a Predators and a Prometheus and an AVP3. They're like, they can be separate things. Of course, nothing it can be further than Requiem than like a film like Prometheus.
Right.
You know, which like triples or quadruples the budget and certainly is well more thought out. But yeah, they seem to like care about the timeline of their franchises, and within each film have like almost zero regard for them, you know, blatant disregard. So yeah, go figure.
Yeah, I think we've said everything that is like can be said, should be said, and I think we've given more time and credence to this film than anyone should.
But
And
I'm really excited about our next one, which is Prometheus.
Yes. So
Prometheus.
do you want to say anything to preface Prometheus?
Oh, well, if anyone has the DVD set for Prometheus or Blu-ray set, there's this amazing like 4-hour documentary called Furious Gods that is so insightful and incredible because it diaries and details the whole production, and it gets into like so far into design and writing and choices and meetings, and they film all of Ridley Scott's meetings during the production phase before filming. That stuff is so fascinating to me. Like, I could watch it all day. And so I've actually, there's very few like DVDs where I'm like returning to a special feature on it, like a bonus content. That's something that I watched multiple times because it was so good. And yeah, that really is fascinating. So if anyone can watch that and really help them toward understanding kind of what happened, and then we'll talk a lot about it.
Yes, we will.
When we get there.
Yeah, and this is when we're gonna cue Nickelback's "How You Remind Me" as our exit song.
Oh my god, classic.
We have to play. We have to play it.
Look at this photograph.
We have to pay homage to the Brothers Strauss.
The best was, did you see recently where Trump posted like a Nickelback meme, and it was them saying like singing that "Look at this photograph," and then Nickelback like had it removed.
You know,
that's brilliant. That's so brilliant.
You know, you're on the wrong side of history when Nickelback like is excommunicating. You know, like
preach. That's bad.
Like so meta. It's frightening. Like,
yeah, amazing though.
What is life right now? I don't know. But yeah, Furious Gods, which you introduced me to, is absolutely amazing. You can actually find parts 1 and 2 of it on YouTube. It's an amazing doc.
Links below?
I'll put links below, yes. And I think that, you know, for people that like BTS stuff, like behind the scenes footage, and want insight into how the mythology is realized of a particular narrative, but specifically like the director's like hand in that, Furious Gods is the like BTS documentary. And Ridley Scott is so hands-on as a filmmaker, and it's showcased so vividly and beautifully in Furious Gods, and in Memoir, introduced me to as well. I'll link everything below, but yeah, we want to say we're sorry for making you watch AVP Requiem, but sorry, not sorry. Like, you gotta do your.
It's still interesting to have a discourse on, you know.
Yeah, and I think
sometimes it's interesting to do the films that don't work, almost equally as the films that work really well.
Yeah. Yes.
Not in this case, but.
No, but also in this case, because if anything, you know, aside from like seeing what doesn't work so that you can appreciate how much the things that do work actually work, it really, I mean, it's fun, and it's a good, I think, reprieve because I think once we get into Prometheus and Covenant, and then of course Alien and what follows it, we're gonna get really, really intense with shit. Like, so enjoy the popcorn while it lasts, because it's about to get real.
Amen.
Well, we thank you guys for watching. Please please turn on the notification bell so you know when the next one goes up. Your homework is to watch Prometheus, because that's what we're going to be doing next. And yeah, I guess we'll see you on the other side.